My sisters and brothers, may the Lord give you peace. Thank you for joining us. Now, I couldn't help but think on Monday, eclipse day, right? That eclipse was truly a dance between the sun and the moon. And of course, here in Western New York, the clouds got involved in that dance as well. But I have to admit it, at first, I wasn't the least bit interested. All an eclipse is an object coming between us and another object, blocking our view. I mean, it's no different than playing peekaboo with a baby. And then a friend of mine gave me a pair of the glasses, and I was like, okay, well, at least if I want to, I can see this thing. But something I heard stayed with me that morning. On Good Morning America, a woman said about this, open your mind, open your heart, and open your senses. And it stayed with me. So about 5 minutes to 2, Monday afternoon, I decided to turn on the TV, and suddenly I was riveted of what was happening, watching as crowds of people disappeared into the darkness. And I love the name that they gave to the moment that the sun would be totally and entirely and perfectly covered by the moon, the moment of totality. Thought it was going to be the end of the world or something. I don't know. But as I looked out the window, I did notice something was happening. So I grabbed the dog leash and I said, come on, Luca, we're going for a walk around the block. We turned a corner and there was a little crowd that had gathered. And someone said to me, hey, buddy, do you want to take a look? And he handed me his glasses. And so I put them on and I was stunned. You saw about a quarter of the sun now covered. I walked around the next corner and this other guy hands me his glasses. Everybody was sharing their glasses, offering each other a chance to see something beautiful. I finally got home, got my glasses, and there it was, slowly happening, the moment of totality. And for a while, we were gifted with the ability to see the source of light that governs our lives. And as I was just standing in the darkness, and as the light was beginning to return, there was this overwhelming feeling I had of being just connected to creation. And I was thinking in the quiet, even though I heard in the neighborhood, I heard people cheering and applauding and yaying, Psalm 46 came to me. Be still, be quiet, and know that I am God. To me, with no scientific background, I saw this as God simply spoiling us. It offered us an opportunity we rarely have these days, an experience of awe and wonder. An experience of a communal act, as people gathered as one to engage in a single event, offering each other their glasses. Wonder is one of the greatest gifts of the Spirit, that children and nature always offer us, right? This experience and feeling of something so vast and greater than ourselves is really a wonderful gift of humility, isn't it? Humility before the great act of ongoing creation begun by God the moment God said, let there be light. A big bang that continues to expand outward to this day. An act of life in which we play only a small part in this vast universe, which is a good lesson for our egos. Our ego really is a stumbling stone in the spiritual life. It's an obstacle. But wonder and awe diminish the power of our ego. Awe and wonder free our spirits. And even if we're not religious, most of us are still in constant pursuit of awe, aren't we? It's why we visit the Grand Canyon, or we stand by the ocean. It's why we tell ghost stories and wear 3D glasses in movie theaters. We're not just adrenaline junkies, but as creations of God, awe is connected to the holy. Of course, Jesus' resurrection, too, is a cosmic phenomenon by which God has chosen to make his beauty visible in a human being. The event through which the world will know itself as loved and longed for by its Creator. And this risen presence of love continues to move among us as it did those first disciples. Now, I think there are like 11 stories of the resurrection of Jesus appearing. And the disciples are always not getting it. Did you ever catch that? In fact, they're not even expecting it. And even when they see it's him, they are joyful, but they're also confused. So we have to be open ourselves to confusion, to being unsettled, to being joyful and confused. And maybe that's a sign of resurrection. We should all try that, a resurrection experiment. If you're joyful and confused this week, See if resurrection is close by. And the other thing that strikes me about the appearances of Jesus are the wounds. We heard that the wounds were very prevalent last week in the Gospel of Thomas. Once again, he shows the wounds to the disciples on the road to Emmaus. He shows them his wounds, and I don't think it's just to prove, see, I'm risen from the dead, see, it's me, like that lovely painting in our church has. That's not the big miracle. That's not what's hard to believe. Although a lot of people find it hard to believe that a human being could rise from the dead, here's the real point, and this is why there's all this showing of wounds. The real mystery revealed is not that it's not that Jesus can rise from the dead, it's that you can be wounded and resurrected at the same time. That's the mystery, and that's the mystery that you and I share in, that you and I can also be wounded and resurrected at the same time. You see, if I was writing the resurrection story, I would have repaired Jesus. There would have been no wounds in the hands, no hole in the side. But every resurrection story still has him wounded. But it was through his wounds, not by avoiding them, not by denying them, but through them that he came to resurrection. We're not saved by the death of Jesus or the resurrection of Jesus, but by the death and resurrection of Jesus. And it's equally hard to believe in both, that you can be dying, wounded, and raised up. Now, of course, he's describing every one of us in this room, every one of us at home, because you're wounded, and I'm wounded too. And there's no exceptions. And most of us were told that we would come to God by pretending we're not wounded, by pretending we're perfect and right. That's not the mystery at all. In fact, it misses the point. Ours is a God who is equally in love with us in our brokenness. That's the heart of the gospel, the heart of Christ. That everyone listening to me is listening from a core of their own situation, and everyone has a little piece of their story that is sometimes almost more than they can bear. And everyone has things about themselves that they can't accept, that they wish weren't true. But what I find consoling about the Easter message is that we need to be honest about that and to be real with that, to be humble. Because to the extent I could accept the depth of my brokenness, I come upon God's infinite love for me, that I am precious even in my sinfulness and brokenness. And the mystics call it the gift of tears. The inner weeping of being unexplainably loved by God, and that is salvation. In Franciscan mysticism, we heard in the first reading about a sinner. Franciscan mysticism describes a sinner as, listen to this, a sinner is someone in whom Christ is suffering in. A sinner is someone in whom Christ is suffering in. So the sinner is still with Christ, maybe even Christ in the tomb. And that is why resurrection stories all mention what? The breaking of the bread. They break bread. Why? Because it's easy to get paralyzed in our disappointments, stuck in our past, and be without hope. But mercifully, each time we find ourselves trudging along the road to Emmaus, which is really a running away from the whole thing. It's a place of defeat. On the road to defeat, there is always a stranger walking with us. Jesus has a habit of just showing up and reminding us that no matter what we face, we never face it alone. The resurrected Christ is always available, yesterday, today, and forever, to guide us, to direct us, to comfort us, to strengthen us, to sustain us, to nourish us, and to empower us to face our problems and challenges. And how does he do that? He promised to show up in the bread. The bread holds the deepest truth of our Christian faith. There is nothing we can face, no sin or failure, or misery or pain, no injustice or suffering, no depression or disease or even death that can cut us off from God's love. There's never been a cosmic story like this. I invite you to trust it. I invite you to live into it. Ask for the grace to experience the awe and the wonder of it anew. But to do so, You're going to have to open up your mind, open up your heart, and open up your senses.